Don't hang up that phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling Podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you gotta ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know that can only mean one thing: live after hours with your favorite RCDD. And don't even try to pretend like I'm not. Don't even try to pretend. Don't even try to. You know I'm your favorite RCD. Jane is in the house. Were your ears burning, Jane? Because I was talking about you at the BICSI conference. I was talking about you because we got to get you on the show still. It's my fault for dropping the ball, but I need to get you on the show. So welcome. So, we start off every show with, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? And, a lot of people don't realize this. My camera's showing that ceiling there. Let's get rid of that ceiling. There we go. It's actually kind of cold in Florida right now. It is. So I'm drinking hot chocolate today. Yeah, look, in my Knowledge is Power coffee cup. Yeah, Knowledge is Power. It was warm there, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then Miss Tatted's in the house. Hey, Miss Tatted, love your content. Love your the Tatted text content too. So I was at BICSI this week, and man, what? How? I got a fan watching the live stream at 36,000 feet. How the heck are you doing that, Jeff? I didn't think you could do video on the airplanes. I thought they limited that, right? Yeah. So thank you, Kevin. What are you drinking? I was drinking hot chocolate. I also got my root beer Zevi right here as well. So what are you drinking? Tell us in the comments. Right. So let me see. What is Michael drinking? He is drinking organic sparkling apple cider. I love apple cider. I grew up in Maryland. We used to have a lot of apple farms, and I loved the fall because you obviously got a lot of apples, but you also got a lot of apple cider. Oh man, I really, really loved it. So the next thing we always move on to is what? Come on, take a guess. What's the next thing? Anybody? The acronym challenge. Miss Tatted on TikTok is saying she's on her third cup of vanilla iced coffee. Nice. So the acronym for this week's show is SMIEE. This is an acronym that even I didn't know. I was sitting in the in one of the master classes, and the guy popped up his name. He was RCDD, OSP, MOUSE, and all that fun stuff. And then he had SMIEE. I didn't know what that meant. I had to go look it up. Yeah. Put in the chat box if you think you know what SMIEE stands for. I'll give you another couple seconds before I give the answer there. Right. So let me see. Chuck Wilson's drinking a Morgan & Coke. Chuck, you know how to rock it, buddy. You know how to rock it. And Jane is drinking sparkling water, orange cream soda. Very good. Mike's taking a guess at it. He's saying subject matter something. Nope. That's not it. It stands for a senior member of the IEEE. I saw that acronym. I was like, what the heck? I don't know what that acronym is. I had to go look it up. So that's what it stands for. That's the there you go, Kevin. You were just a tiny bit late. I already gave out the answer. Doesn't count if I give out the answer, right? So let's go ahead and let me flip back over to graphics, turn off that graphic. Kaboom. Now let's talk about the next thing. I was at the BICSI show this week, and you know that they just released the 15th edition TDMM right before the BICSI conference. And so while I was there, you know what I bought? Take a guess. Take a guess at what Chuck bought while he was there. It just came in today. The 15th edition TDMM. Yes, just came in today. And it is so fresh, so stinking fresh. I haven't even put the pages in it yet. Because, I literally went out and got it out of my, the FedEx driver dropped it off at the gate at the front of the yard. I literally picked it up at like 5:50, right before the show. So the 15th edition is here. I got both the electronic and the hard copy. I usually give away the hard copy, but I'm not doing that this time. I'm keeping the hard copy this time. Maybe I might give away a hard copy of the 15th edition later in the year or something. I don't know. We'll think about that. Kind of depends how well the podcast does, right? Oh, by the way, speaking of how well the podcast does, if you get a chance, make sure you find a way to support us. You can do it through Linktree on the thing up there in the TikTok land. You can go to the webpage, the Let's Talk Cabling webpage, and there's ways there for you can support. Even also looking for corporate sponsors, because going to these events like the BICSI events, stuff like that, it costs money. It costs money. And when I was at the BICSI event, I came across, over my 3 days that I was there, 85 people who were fans of the podcast. 85 people at the BICSI event, at the BICSI Winter Conference. But that's not what I'm most impressed with, or what I'm most humbled by. I'm most humbled by the number of people who came up to me and said, Chuck, because of you, I'm studying from RCDD. Chuck, because of you, I passed my RCDD. And the best compliment that I got happened at the awards banquet last night. So I'm sitting at my table. I was pretty much left by myself. Everybody had left. I was just kind of sitting there doing social media posts as usual, right? So I was doing social media posts. George is in the house. Kaylin's in the house. So I'm sitting there doing social media posts. And this guy comes up to me and he says, "You're Chuck Bowser." I'm like, "Yes." He goes, I got to tell you, my son was in communications. He got out of communications and he found your podcast. Now he's back in communications and he's studying for his RCDD. How humbling is that? How humbling is that? Right? I made a comment in a video I did that posted today that, content creators get stuck in the hamster wheel of chasing likes. I chase impact. I want to know how I impacted your life. That's harder to measure because I don't know if you don't tell me. So if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, if I have somehow impacted your life because of the podcast, put it in the chat box, put it in the thing so I can see it. Okay. Because that's the wind underneath my wings. That's what really, really gets me going. It really does. So I will repeat this. I said it in the last live stream. If you are in the 14th edition, you still have time to take your test, right? If you've got your application in and it's accepted, you have a year from that point. You're good to go. If you have not put in your application yet, get it in now and get it accepted. BICSI will accept applications up to the end of, I think it was May, if I remember right. Don't wait to the end of May to put it in. And then once you get accepted, you have 30 days. you have a year to take the test from that point. BICSI will continue to give the proctored exam on the 14th edition TDMM up until the 1st of June, 2025. So if you're studying the 14th edition now, you do have time. Just don't wait. Don't wait. Okay. Also, I got Let's Talk Cabling merchandise. So I got Let's Talk Cabling shirts, Wire Monkey shirts, Knowledge is Power shirts. Consider buying one. It helps pay for the podcast. It really does. Right now, the podcast is, like I said, not bringing in a whole bunch of money, and I need to do something to get some money coming in here. I really do. Did you happen to see last week's episode of the podcast? Did you? Let me know in the chat box if you've seen it. It was the best episode, the biggest episode, the hardest episode that I've ever done. So I did a roundtable discussion on site in Austin, Texas. 3 different camera views, 7 different microphones. It took me 47 hours to edit that. Now, just to kind of give you a little bit of a reference, a normal episode, which is a normal episode, which is 30 minutes to 45 minutes. It takes me usually an hour and a half to edit it. So that's how complicated that episode was. Next week is going to be a really good one. I am documenting the journey of an RCDD candidate. And he's actually, I saw him posting here. He's here today, or here tonight, I mean. Where is he? There he is. Yeah, he is definitely in here right now. So yeah, I'm going to be documenting. So first conversation is we're going to talk about why he did it. And then in a few months, we're going to talk about when he takes his exam, and we'll talk about how that. So we're going to document and follow along as that, because of that, right? Oh, look at this. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Jane is considering studying it because of me. Man, that is absolutely humbling. Absolutely humbling, right? And look, here's another one. Consider studying it because of me. That I cannot, it absolutely flatters me that people take time out of their life, whether it's in a car driving or if it's whatever, just or time away from the kids, and they listen to me in the content. I can't even begin to tell you how flattering that is, because I don't. I struggle with content. I struggle being in front of the camera, and I struggle my self doubt. And you probably do this as well. I watch my videos for critique. I don't watch them for any other reason other than to critique myself. And the sound of my voice makes me cringe, and my filler words make me just like nails on a chalkboard. So when I look at my content, I just my skin crawls. But so when people come up to me and say, "Look, because of the what you're doing, it has impacted my life. It's helped me." That helps me get past my inadequacies, right? Look, Jeff Work, I met him at BICSI. He was in the third RCD study group, and he passed his RCDD, and he's living proof that the study group works. So yes, I thank you so much for that, Jeff, and it's good seeing you. I wish we would have had dinner last night. I really, really do. I really, really do. All right, we're already at 6:13. We got to get into the questions here, right? So I learned from last week. Last week I did the 10 most commonly asked questions about estimating, and I went way over. So I kind of said, okay, I can't do that again. So now I'm doing the most 5 commonly asked questions that I get when somebody talks to me about an RCDD program. The 5 most commonly questions that I get. So let me throw up the captions here so we can do this go along. So here's the first question, right? The first question is, what is the RCDD certification and why is it important in the ICT industry? I know most people watching this tonight, right? Most people tonight, absolutely, Kaylin. It is because of my Lord and Savior who gave me the talents and treasures to be successful in this industry and be successful with the podcast. It is all because of him. It is not because of me. Thank you, Kaylin, for reminding me that, buddy. Absolutely. So I still come across people who don't know what an RCDD is. They don't. And I've come across people who say, well, yeah, I'm going to study for my RCDD, or actually what they say is, I'm going to study for my RCCCD. I'm like, okay, well, the first question is going to be, what is an RCDD? So you better know what it is, right? Yeah, there you go. So this question is kind of, I still surprised me that I come across people who don't know what it is. So the RCDD, it stands for Registered Communications Distribution Designer. And what is that? It is a globally recognized credential, not a certification. Credential. A lot of people get that wrong. There's a difference between a credential and a certification. Big difference. A lot of people get it wrong. So it's globally recognized. It started off obviously in the U.S., but it has gone global. Matter of fact, with the awards banquet last night, several people who won awards were in Japan and India and some other places. So it is a globally recognized certificate. I almost did it, certification. It's a globally recognized credential. So RCDDs are considered to be experts in anything from designing to installing to certifying to estimating ICT projects, information communication technology projects. And that could be low voltage cabling for voice and data, could be access control, fire alarm, AV. In Jeff's case, he does a lot of DAS stuff, distributed antenna system stuff. So we have a wide amount of experience, a wide amount. Now the certifications, I did it again. The credentials is important because it signifies to the world, it signifies to your customers, it signifies to your potential employees that you have expertise in this industry, right? And RCDs play a crucial role in making sure that network is going to be reliable. It's going to work when they download those huge files. It's going to be able to download the large CAD files for the prints, the large images for hospitals, and it's going to be allow us to communicate efficiently, right? Think about how fast our world talks today, right? It used to be. I remember a time that in the business world, when you would call somebody, if they weren't there, we didn't even have voicemail. We didn't even have voicemail. You had to leave a message with the person up front, and they would write it on this book that had multiple layers. It had carbonless paper, and they write the name. They get your name, your number, and then they rip that thing off, and they put that in your inbox, and then the other page was still there. I am that old. And think about today's communications. I mean, literally, you could pick up a phone, call somebody, text somebody, and if you don't get answered within 30 seconds, you think the person's ignoring you. Well, that is only allowed because people like RCDDs are putting in networks. That's why that's important, right? The RCD is also going to be important because it's going to help you advance your career. So when I was walking around the BICSI conference, the marketing team caught me and they said, "Chuck, do you mind if we ask you a few questions on camera?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And I want to see the video, just kind of see how I did. And so one of the very first questions they asked me is, "How did my RCDD certification advance my career?" And my response was, it was like putting gasoline on a fire. It literally launched my career. All right. I started getting offered positions that weren't available to me before. I started winning projects because I could staff them with an RCDD, right? It just absolutely launched my career. I know a lot of people like to argue, are certifications, credentials good or bad? And I don't need one because I already know all that stuff. I get it. A credential, it's like marriage, right? It's absolutely like marriage. Can you live with your spouse in a house without being married? Absolutely. But what does that piece of paper do? Think about it. What does that piece of paper do when you get married to your spouse? It declares to the world that you are a couple. That's what that credential does. That's what that certification does, right? And then when somebody who has that certification or credential, they got skin in the game. So they're going to have to do things to keep that up to speed. Second question. Let me flip that graphic. I'll turn on the second question. Boom. There we go. How can you become an RCDD and what are the prerequisites? Right? So the process is really pretty streamlined. By the way, if you are considering, Jane, listen up. If you're considering pursuing your RCDD, the very first thing you should do, get on the old Google machine and type in RCDD Study Handbook V14. RCDD Study Handbook V14. If you're going to test on the 15th edition, I haven't checked this yet, but I bet you they've got it already. RCDD Handbook V15. I'm going to have to do that. Hey, somebody who's watching or listening, Alt tab over to another screen, go to Google, type in RCDD Study Handbook V15, and let me know if it pulls up a document. Okay, let me know if it pulls up a document. Well, we're going to answer this question live. I mean, that thing is a great resource. And in that book, as a matter of fact, a lot of this information comes from that book, right? So the first thing you got to do is you got to do your application. You got to fill out the application. It's going to ask you for some things, maybe some references, maybe some job history, stuff like that. You have to submit that application for approval, and then it has to be approved. It can take up to 30 days for that to happen. 30 days. Once you're approved, you are now eligible to take the test for 12 months. 12 months. Right. So now you got to take the test. Right. Once you pass the test, then you go into the what's called the certification cycle. And then every 3 years, you got to get your 46 hours of CECs and one conference. It's 45 approved CECs. That's what it is. 45 approved CECs. You got to maintain that credential. And that's the second half of that question is what are the prerequisites? How do I know if I qualify? There are 3 options. I'll go with option 3 first because that's the one that I did it. You have to have 5 or more verifiable years of design experience. A lot of people get hung up on that because they say, Chuck, I wasn't an estimator. Well, estimators aren't the only people who design, communication systems. A project manager who's having to deal with a change order might be doing some designing. Okay. A QA person. This happened to me when I was working for Hinkles. I was actually the QA person at the later half part of my career at Hinkles McCoy. And I got pulled into the estimation process for a very large project, and I got the help with that. So again, anybody can be doing design. So that's option 3, 5 or more years. So the other 2 options are option 1, you can qualify to sit for the proctoring of the exam if you have 2 or more years of verifiable work experience in this industry and you hold another certification. Like, for example, I'm a BICSI technician as well as an RCD. So if I had the tech first and I had 2 years of experience, I would qualify to sit for that exam. But it can be more than just the tech. It could be the RTPM, the DC-DC, even the OSP. Right. The second option, 2 or more years of verifiable experience in the ICT design and the completion of 2 years of higher education coursework. Now, that could be anything from like STEM or trade school. It could be a 2-year degree. It can even be an apprenticeship or a certification in, for example, like a JATC apprentice thing. It could even be military training. But if you go that route, you got to make sure that you document and you send them proof of those that extra work, like maybe certificates or diplomas, right? Some kind of a bona fide document that's going to help you prove that you had that experience. Going on to question number 3. Question number 3. What does that say? I really should be putting on my glasses so I can read this. What are the key responsibilities of an RCDD in designing and managing low voltage projects? So again, before I talk about some of the skills you need as an RCDD, let's talk about what RCDDs do. Okay. There are estimators. There are project managers. There are, I even know some superintendents and some lead technicians who are RCDDs, right? It could also be sales, and it could be somebody even, I know of one, I know of a person who got their RCDD and they really focus on marketing. So RCDs do the wide gamut of jobs. So as you can imagine, the skill sets that go with all them jobs are wide ranging as well. So number 1, you have to have you need to really want to do a needs assessment, and you want to understand that the requirements and objectives for whatever project it is that you're going to be doing. It might be a small little project of 5 or 10 cables, large project with, thousands of cables, because you're going to need to understand the specific requirements and the objectives of that project. And you have to be able to understand and put it together, what's called a design plan for it. Okay. So doing a design plan, you're gonna do your schematics, you're gonna measure out your cables, figure out how many blocks you need, how many jacks you need, how many faceplates you need, what kind of cable, what kind of connectors, what kind of labor, what kind of workforce, right? Is it a simple cookie cutter structured cable job where you can do maybe like a lead tech and a couple cable pullers, or is it going to be a PoE install where they're going to be pulling cable, but also putting in equipment to control that PoE system? Well, that's a little bit higher technician, right? You have to be really good with documentation. That's everything from writing requests for information, responding to requests for quotes, doing drawings, schematics, red lines, as-builts, A good project manager should also have some skill set in project management. Project management. Now, the thing with that is, with project management is, there was a really good class at a master class at the conference this year, where they sat down and talked about tracking your estimated costs and controlling. It was a really good class. They even had handouts and stuff. So I really suggest you take a good project management class. And I highly suggest, I got to ask this question this week too. Chuck, what's the difference between the RTPM and the PMP? I did a whole video series on it. Go back and look in the history of my podcast. You'll find it. If you are planning on staying in this industry, I highly recommend you go with the RTPM. That's the project management certificate designed for our industry. So I highly recommend that over anything else. Right? The PMP is a great certification. It's a harder certification to get. Project management is project management. You are just managing widgets. But when you come to the communication world, if you get the RTPM, it is fine-tuned to our. I like, for example, I got an F-350 farm truck. I drove over to BICSI this week and back. That's why I stayed at the hotel there, because I didn't want to drive a crew cab F-350 with an 8-foot bed back and forth, all week long, and had to go through 2 tanks of gas, right? I'm not going to take my Power Stroke to Joe Blow, who works in the garage down the street, who's never seen a diesel before. But I will take it to somebody who has expertise in it. That's what the RTPM is. They have expertise in managing projects in the actual industry. So it's fine-tuned for it. Other skill sets, client communications. You'd be surprised how many people type like this. And so you got to be really good at that. You got to be really good at team coordination, because you're going to be dealing with the teams installing the projects. You might be dealing with teams to estimate projects. You might be dealing with other project managers together to bring all your resources together. You also have to understand budget management. How much is money's in the project, and are we on budget, below budget, or over budget? Right? You can't just go by hours. So I know a lot of project managers said, "Well, I got 1,300 hours in there, and yeah, we're gonna come in under budget under $1,300 hours." Was the crew makeup the same as what was estimated? Because if they estimated a simple crew, like, again, a couple installers and a lead tech, and you've got lead techs and a superintendent who make more money, yeah, you might come in under those hours, but your crew cost per hour is going to be more, and you might go in the red. Good project manager knows how to track that. Our industry is horrible at creating project managers. I'll just put that out there. I'll put that out there. Question number 4. Let me switch this over. Question number 4. Bing. All righty. Question number 4. How does the RCD certification benefit your career and professional growth? I already told you what it did to mine. Dude, it was like putting gasoline on a fire. Poof. It really moved fast and furious quickly. Because now you got industry certification that's recognized globally, like I mentioned earlier. So again, what's it going to do? It could potentially open up doors for your career advancement. They might consider you for the program manager position because you got your RCDD. If you're a tech or a superintendent in the field and you get your RCDD, they might consider you for a project manager now more than they were before. It's also going to make you more valuable to your employer, more valuable. And generally that equates to either more money or more job security, or sometimes both. Right? It really depends on the company. And the reason it makes you more, having the RCDD makes you more marketable, and employers might even require you to have an RCDD just to be in certain positions. It's going to expand your knowledge. You ask anybody, ask Jeff. Jeff, put it in the chat box. Going through the RCD study group, did it expand your knowledge? Right? And then when you start doing the BICSI conference stuff, it's also going, because you're going to go once every 3 years. Some people go more than that, but you got to go at least once every 3 years to maintain your RCDD credential. You get to network with people. I brought somebody along with me this time to help me with the podcast. It was his first winter conference. He's owns a small communications company up in Rhode Island, and I saw him giving business cards to lots of people. And that was because being down and staying connected with the industry. So the network with people. Now, again, staying with an RCD, you got to understand you're going to have to maintain that RCDD, those 45 CECs. You can get them through BICSI classes. You can get them through industry classes, manufacturing classes. A lot of them will get that their classes recognized. Another thing that a lot of people don't really think about when you have your RCDD is that your clients will trust you more. See, most clients, you do have some clients that we work with that understand what we do, but by far the vast majority of clients do not know what we do. They don't. So they trust us. And if you have that certification, then they know that you jump through the extra hoops and you have to maintain it. So you can get more. My wife and I were just talking about this. We were talking about the shirts that I wear for the show. And we were talking about the show, and I told her, I said, well, the reason I wear my shirt is that way if somebody happens to be flipping through, and if they see the RCD shirt, then they may stop. If I'm just wearing like a regular, literally right before I had the show start, I had on my BICSI Winter Conference T-shirt from last year. If I had that T-shirt on, would you recognize me instantly as an expert in this field? Probably not. But if you come across and you happen to see the RCDD on my shirt, you might stop and say, hey, wait a minute, that's an RCDD. What do they have to say? That's what that certification will do for you, right? If you have visions of glory of moving internationally to do cabling, again, the RCDD is recognized globally. It's recognized globally. All right, let's go to the last and final question. Question number 5. There we go. What tips and resources can help you prepare for the RCDD exam and succeed? I want your help on this. Get in the chat box for those of you guys who are and gals who are RCDDs now. For those of you in this room who are currently studying for your RCDD, get in the chat box right now and say, here's what I use to help me for my studying. As a group, let's pull each other up, because there might be somebody might be doing something, and when you read that comment, you go, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. So put it in the chat box right now. What tips do you use? So let's go for the first one, right? And these are not in any particular order. Okay, they're not. Then just because I'm going to go through the order that I thought them up in, these are not, the order that you need to think. The first one's not the most important. All of these are great tips. So the first one is take an approved BICSI approved course. If I remember right, I want to say in the RCD study handbook, I think it says to take the DD 101 and the DD 102, if I remember right. Those are great courses to get you prepped for it. Great courses. They also just came out with a RCDD study group, right? It's 3 2-hour class, total of 6 hours. It's $4.99. I'm actually thinking about starting up a second RCDD study group this year. So keep your eyes out for that, because I may start a second one this year. Because Chuck doesn't have enough to do, right? Right. So keep an eye out for that. Obviously, you have to study the TDMM, and everybody has different study techniques, right? Some people will read X amount of pages a day. Some people will just jump and skip. Some people think, okay, well, I think the test is really on chapters 3, 7, 9, and 14. So I'm just going to really cram those ones down. I highly suggest you read all the chapters. All the chapters. I know a lot of people like to use practice exams. Those people who participate in my RCD study group get access to practice exams. Now, the practice exams that I give are not the actual questions on the test. They're just questions that we come up with. And it's just to help you gauge how well your studying is doing. And the good thing about the practice exams, I was talking to somebody at the BICSI conference. We were talking about the exam, and I told him, I said, my biggest hurdle when I went to test for my RCD exam, because it took me 2 times. I failed the first time. I admit it. So what happened is, the reason I failed that first one is because I had been out of school for 20 years, high school for 20 years. I had forgotten how to take tests. You got to kind of retrain your brain on how to take a test, right? So that's the biggest reason why I failed the exam the first time. So practice exams help you get into that mindset, right? I also highly suggest that you get into a RCDD study group. Okay, and as Jeff said, he was in study group 3 that we had. You get to collaborate with your peers, and together you come together to discuss the what's in the TDMM, and you actually will get more out of it. And it's accountability. It's accountability because now when you go to your weekly RCD study group, you know that you're going to have to. Oh my gosh, I have to have my reading done. So it helps keep you hyper focused on your reading. Okay, on your reading. So there are some other resources out there as well. There's Corey and Steve. I've never done Corey and Steve. I was talking to somebody at the conference about it this week, and he said he did Corey and Steve, and I asked him what he thought about it, and he gave me his opinion, and I don't want to give you what his opinion was because I can't verify if it's true or false, and I don't want to give them a good reputation or a bad reputation just based on one person's input that I have. But I know I've heard people say that they've used Corey and Steve. I just don't know how well of a program it is. So but it's out there. It's out there. You can also create your own flashcards. How much does a package of 3x5 index cards cost? They're pretty cheap. BICSI does have flashcards that you can download. So it saves you the time from having to do that, right? Another good thing, too, is if you're not in a study group, which you should be in a study group, find somebody who already has the RCDD. So that way, when you read something in the book and you have problems understanding it, you can bounce it off of somebody. And I will tell you right now, the very first chapter in the TDMM, the principles of transmission, the very first chapter is the hardest chapter to pass, to read and understand, because it's electrical theory, and most people, unless you went through some kind of trade school or if you're in the military and most people don't know that stuff. Most people don't. All right. Also, be really good with time management. Because it's going to take. It took me 8 to 10 hours a week of reading, studying, index cards, having people quiz me. It's a commitment. And so think about that and where you are in your life right now. Did you just have a baby? And is that baby sleeping all the way through the night? If that's the case, right now maybe not be the best time to try to study for your RCDD. Although I know people have done it. And here's another tip that a lot of people don't really think about. Develop some type of relaxation techniques, because you're going to be reading through this book and you're going to be reading things that you just don't know what's going on. And you're going to stress out of it. You're going to be going, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm reading here. I'm going to fail this test. Find a way. My wife calls it decompressing. Find a way to decompress. The way that her and I decompress is we have a spa in our backyard. So we'll go out there and we'll sit in the spa. It faces towards the west, so we get to watch the beautiful sunset in our spa. And that's how we decompress every night. And when you find that you decompress, you're going to find that it's absolutely going to help you. Absolutely going to help you. Let's look at some comments. Let me see. We'll pick up with that one. Let's see. What does it say? On the verge of taking my exam, and you were a huge influence in finally applying and actually applying on Thursday night. Excellent. So, Michael, your episode's coming out next Monday, by the way. So, let me see. Jeff here is next time for sure. Absolutely. Because the funny thing was, there was like 4 or 5 open seats at my table. You could have easily sat at my table. There was a lot of tables there that weren't completely full. A lot of tables last night at the awards banquet. Where can you find the study group? So the best thing to do, Robert, I see that you're coming here on LinkedIn. Shoot, if we're not already connected as friends on LinkedIn, send me a friend request, and then once I connect, send me a message. Say, look, I want to be in the study group. The one that we're going right now is closed, but like I said, I am considering doing a second one this year. I normally do one a year, but I've got a friend who wants to help me with the second one, and if that's the case, then we'll do a second one this year, right? What does the approval process look like, and what do they review? From my understanding, and maybe Jeff can clarify here, they review everything. If you put down that you did this, they may call that employer, right? Now, if you put in your application and then there's something that BICSI might reach out to and say, look, we need more information on this, and this. You have a very short time frame to give them back that information. I want to say it's 7 days, right? Don't sit on it. And like I said, they will verify it. Just assume they're going to verify everything. So Jane says V15 is available. Excellent. Excellent. Jane, do me a favor if you don't mind, because you and I are already friends. Message that link to me in the mailbox. Okay. So yeah, so version 14 still online. Absolutely. I pulled it up tonight, so I know it's online. Luke's in the house. And it will probably stay online until June 1st, 2025. Because that's when they last give exams. I don't know why this phone's ringing. Actually, it's not my phone, it's my work phone. So we'll just shut that off. There we go. So what this says, what does a CCS qualify? I don't know. That would be a BICSI question. I'm not sure if that would qualify or not. Right. So this one is to study. I was able to do the reading, the TM highlighting everything that I didn't know, but thought it was going to be important to know. Then after our study group was done, I went back and reread the highlights and the project management chapter. Yes, absolutely. So that's the beautiful thing about the study group that I run. I record them, and then I put them online where only the people in the study group can read it. And then that way you go back and rewatch the video to refresh themselves, or if they can't attend one particular night, they can go back and watch it, stuff like that. Chuck Wilson's in the house. Chuck Wilson is 4.5 miles that way. him, we're almost neighbors. Him and I, one day, we're going to meet up at Cracker Barrel in between us and have a cup of coffee. And he said, your answers need to be based on what the manual is, not from your life. Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's another reason why I failed the first exam, because I answered the questions based on what I was doing in the field, what I was trained. The answers they are seeking is the answers that you will be in the actual book. Okay, if it's not in his book, then you answer it that way, it's wrong. Absolutely good, great point. Great point, Chuck. All right, okay. You can't, you're not a member. Okay. Not a member of what? I kind of lost track there. And this question coming in says, I was able to pass my RCDD by reading a TDM twice, flashcards, and Corey and Steve for quizzes and sample tests. Be prepared. Put everything aside and commit to it fully. Absolutely. So when I did mine, what I did was I told at the time I had small kids in the house. When I say small, they were 7 to 14. And I told them, I said, look, when Daddy comes home from work at 6:30, Daddy's going to walk into the bedroom. He's going to close the door and he's going to study for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Don't bother me. We'll do something fun on the weekend to make up for it. Right. And that's how I did that. I said, because if Dad passes this exam, he's going to make more money and then we can do even more fun stuff. So yes, you got to allot the time to do it. That's actually a great point. Great point. Gotcha. All righty, we are past the 6:30 mark. I did it again. I went over the 30-minute mark. I apologize for that. But hey, I think this is important information. I think everybody needed to know it. I really did. So next live stream next week, I'm doing a BICSI roundtable conversation. I'm gonna have 4 or 5 people come in, and we're gonna talk about what we thought. I'm gonna have somebody who's a brand spanking new, is their first conference. I'm gonna have a manufacturer on there. I'm gonna have a large company that they've been there a couple of times, and then the other one's gonna be a one of the participants. I won't say who. One of the participants of the BICSI Cable Skills Challenge. Yeah, it's going to be a good episode. So make sure you tune in next week. BICSI Winter Conference Roundtable. Hope we can keep that one under 45 minutes too. I hope. All right, everybody. Until next time, remember, knowledge is